Hello everyone, welcome to our talk called Innovation Takes Time. I have with me today Nick Walsh, the CEO at Geometry Middle East and North Africa. Hi Nick, how are you doing?
Yeah, good Dan, thank you, thanks, good to be here.
Great. And Nisreen Faris, the Account Director at Geometry Dubai as well. Hi Nisreen.
Hello.
Hi. Here we're going to be talking about the Handle on Hygiene project, a product that was made and produced in Geometry Dubai. But before we do, I'd like to start on the question on innovation, because innovation is such a big word and it's overused sometimes. And also many people think of innovation, they go straight to the word technology and tech. So what do you think about that, and what do you think about the word in itself?
Yeah, hi Dan. I think it's a really good question. Obviously, leading into the hand on hygiene we're going to talk about today, I think most people assume that innovation is something deeply rooted in technology or in future trends. But I think the truth is it doesn't necessarily need to be that. Of course it can be, and there's many innovative people who work in that space, very digitally minded. But the truth is we're in the business of solving problems in a creative way. So I think it's actually innovations about solutions to tensions that maybe haven't been solved before, whether that be through digital innovation, but it also can be totally analog, as is the example we're going to talk about today. So I think it's about something new, and I think importantly, it's a process of solving a problem. So it's coming up with a solution and making sure you see it right through to execution.
Great. And Nisreen, did you want to add anything, or should we go to the next question?
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to have a single definition of what innovation is. It's practically different depending on the business model and culture and value of each organization. But the way we see it is creativity is the ability to come up with new and potentially valuable ideas. And innovation is the process of actually transforming these ideas into becoming commercially relatable. So basically, the way we treat it is that creativity is the seed of innovation, and we take it and we scale it and we apply it so that it doesn't end up being just an idea.
Yeah, that's great. It's great insights from both of you. I think it's very true that innovation just really isn't one thing. It's many things, and it doesn't, as we said, have to be technology. So, Handle on Hygiene. It was made 5 years ago. It seems a lifetime ago already. It won buckets of awards in Cannes. And as well, the next year, it converted into a Cannes Effectiveness Award as well. And now it's back. So how was the Handle on Hygiene actually born? Was it a small random idea? Was it a tactic that you had in the presentation? So yeah, I'd just love to hear a bit more about how the idea came about in the first place.
No, of course, Dan, and I'm lucky enough to have been there 5 years ago. So stretching memory back, but I think you never forget when a really great idea comes out of the agency. So the interesting thing about it was actually part of a pitch. So we had a suite of Unilever brands we worked on, things like Dove and Lipton and Pond's, and we were invited to pitch on the Lifebuoy brand. And the Lifebuoy brand's been one which I've always there's been some brilliant work, if you remember, done on the Lifebuoy brand over the years, really rich proposition of prevention is better than cure, and doing a lot of very purposeful work. So we're really excited. Typical presentation that you do and we see over and over again, all the touch points going from ATL through to digital, right the way through to kind of more traditional shopper touch points, those slides and slides in a 100-page deck. Great pitch, but we came runners up, unfortunately. But there was a good moment out of it where the client called us and said, look, there was one idea in your pitch and we want to make it happen, and that was the Hand on Hygiene. And I think in fairness, it was a real learning for me and for the agency, because what it shows you is the big idea in a campaign can actually come from anywhere. We've gone through this assumption that sometimes it has to be a film or big brand idea, but actually what we learned from that and feel strongly about now as a big iconic idea can come from anywhere in the mix. Yeah? And in fact, this was a shopper innovation and one touch point of the pitch that actually became the center. So all of the TV and the digital and the out of home and all the other touch points actually came off this later when we ran the campaign. So it does make me think, you know, if we'd have been braver in that pitch, if we'd have put this at the centre as the first idea they'd seen and built the whole pitch around that, maybe things would have been different. So there's a lovely story behind it, from pitch to execution. I hope we're going to cover that off, but it took probably 18 months, best part of that, to get it that back. But that's how the idea was born, and I think it's you know, it shows the power of a good idea, that it's still around and relevant 5 years later.
Yeah, for sure. I think that, you know, as you said, it's sometimes we have these little nuggets of ideas that we kind of think, yeah, it's cool, it's great, and it may be, you know, just a little add-on, but that add-on, as you said, has become the big campaign, the big idea. But it's not just a big idea for me when I look at it. It's actually got purpose and a meaning behind it as well. So it actually does change human behavior, right? So it's got so many levels to it that it's really awesome idea. So yeah, it was 5 years ago. A lot's changed since then, so I assume it was just you know, bubbling away in the background, but now we're coming back with a big bang. So why now? Why bring it back now?
Well, I think you know, it's no secret the moment of time that we're in, and in fairness, it never really went away. As I say, I think it's an idea that's always been ready and been relevant. When we initially ran the campaign 5 years ago, we produced 100,000 units, and we launched it across China and the Middle East, and it was very successful. And we've obviously been using this idea in our credentials. You know, you've seen it in Geometry Creds for years gone by, but obviously with the pandemic and what's happened, there's obviously been this kind of heightened sense of hygiene and need for hygiene solutions. So in truth, we were kind of inundated all around the world, about every corner of the world, about, you know, where is this idea? What happened to it? Can you scale it? Can you bring it back into production? And I think the difference is, as I mentioned previously, we were almost highlighting where you wouldn't expect germs to be. So in this case, it happened to be the shopping cart handle. And we were sort of saying, you know, you've got to be careful of those handles. They can give you germs, and, you know, that can cause infections and diseases and stuff. I think the difference this time around is everyone's aware of that already, because the no touch and the surface issues that people are finding around the pandemic. So the difference is now, where the hand on hygiene was in a place where it was there to solve an immediate problem. So, you know, we realised that quite quickly that we had a sustainable, and I think sustainability is a big word here, because there's an awful lot of reaction happening to hygiene, but this is something which is sustainable, it's scalable, and it's a solution ready for now. So it kind of made sense that we brought it back, and from our own purpose point of view, with Geometry Reimagining Commerce, it felt right that we played a part in supporting retailers and brands by bringing this to market.
Yeah, great. Nisreen, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I was going to say that even 5 years ago, when this product was relevant, and looking at what's happening today, it's actually more than ever relevant, especially with the fear of people touching surfaces. It shows that all over the world, there's 60% of shoppers have that fear of touching objects and surfaces. So this is more than ever. It's the right time to bring it back to market. It's a simple solution for today's biggest problem, really.
Yeah. And is that 60%, was that before COVID, or is that now?
No, this is now.
Now, yeah. Yeah, because I look at it as before, I think that we were aware of these sort of problems, but we never really, we kind of brushed them aside, right? But now there's no ignoring it, none at all. And I think that what it's going to do is make us more self-aware of hygiene and health. So solutions like this, I think, are going to be coming all over the place on every different category as well. But this idea, right, is the innovation of itself. And I've created some products myself in the past, and I'm fully aware that coming up with the idea, that's kind of the easy part, right? It's actually then you have this idea on a piece of paper, and then you've got to figure out, right, how do I get this to the next level? How do I make it? What's the innovation side of it? And it doesn't have to be technology, as we've just discussed, but there's a big process behind it that how you get from drawing to what you had in your hand earlier, Nick, the actual end product, right? So what's the process that you went through, and what were the plus points, the hurdles, the headaches, everything that you went through?
Yeah, a good question. And I couldn't agree more. And I think, in the agency, in the creative business, we're great at coming up with ideas. And I'm sure you've got bottom drawers full of great solutions to problems that remain in the bottom drawer. We all do. And I think, that's the challenge is obviously to make these things, make them real, right? And we're not always the best at scaling products, especially when it's something of volume like this. So the whole process took about 18 months. And again, in truth, you need to bring in expertise. You need to bring in people that you can trust, and that you have the right expertise in design, in manufacturing, in choosing the right materials, in engineering even. It's a different process. So we worked with 2 different production teams. We scoured around the world to find the right teams. We got some backing from Unilever, and we got some backing internally, because also there's a financial input that's needed. And we were lucky enough to get some funding, which meant that we could go and do the exploratory work. We actually made 2 different versions. We had to beg, steal, and borrow. And there was the team that works on it. There was this kind of like unwavering desire to make this happen. We knew it was a good idea, and the kind of test of a good idea is you put it in front of a client, and in the first 5 seconds they get it, they understand it, and they want it. We knew it was a good idea, but we had to work. We had to call in favors. We worked with a team in Singapore who helped to develop the prototype 1.0, which is the one you see in the case film. It's a round version. But that wasn't for scaling. That cost about $800 or $900 per unit, and we made 30 of them. So do the maths, it was expensive. But the interesting thing is, it might sound like something simple, a piece of plastic that sits on a trolley handle and sanitizes it, but you've got to make sure that it doesn't leak, that it has the right amount of liquid in, that it distributes the right amount of liquid, that it's safe and secure, that it doesn't drop on people's feet, that a child doesn't eat one of the screws. I mean, there's so many things you don't think about. The size of the trolley handles, there's many weeks of extra thought and work that has to go into that. Understanding the viscosity of the liquid and the way the felt distributes the liquid. It's a piece of engineering. So from paper through prototype 1.0, where we did the activation, and then we really partnered with Unilever to bring the price per unit down, which is the version you see today. Again, really beautiful piece of engineering, 2 identical parts, no screws show, so it fits exactly perfectly well. New media touch points, so you can brand and put new messages in here whenever you need to. Easily refillable from both sides. There's a clear place to see how much liquid's left in. So really, again, analog but smart piece of engineering. So I think the learnings are that it takes commitment from everyone, from finance, from account teams, from planners, and of course creatives. And it's a team effort. You need to find the right people you trust to do it, and who are willing to go that extra mile for you. You need the right client. So it's a mix of everything. And I think we've learned a lot even today. Freight and taxes and import taxes, and it's something we're not used to always in the agency business. But a big process. Process continues now. So 5 years later, we're still evolving it and even looking at new touch points. So I hope that answers your question. But
no, it does. It's great. I think
big journey.
One more thing to it is one little add-on question here is if you had to say what was the biggest piece of advice to anyone creating a new product from scratch like you've done, what would it be?
I think it's about being realistic. We see an awful lot of great ideas that are not realistic, and I think this is a good example, right? Because this seems like something very simple, but there's many ways we could have complicated this, and the more complicated it gets, the more expensive it gets, and the more expensive it gets means it doesn't see the light of day. So I think you have to be, probably the better word is keep things simple. Don't try and overcomplicate things. When we're talking about really advanced technological solutions, it's more expensive even. So I'd say yeah, keep it simple. I can't do one piece of advice, sorry, Darren. But have a will to succeed. Yeah, never give up. Never ever give up on your idea.
Yeah, well, that's a true inventor, right? You should never give up on an entrepreneur. You should never give up on your dreams, right? So that's
Absolutely.
a great bit of
Absolutely.
advice. So we've got the handle of hygiene. So what are and don't hate me for this question, but what are the real benefits apart from cleaning cart handles? Nisreen, do you want to give that one a go?
Yes, yeah. Well, I mean, you can look at this as an innovation, as the golden triangle of shopper marketing, where it demonstrates a clear benefit for the brand, the customer, and the shopper. With the current situation, retailers are struggling to find a sustainable solution to protect shoppers, and shoppers are demanding for a solution. So basically, the retailers would be more than willing to have this activation in place as long as it helps them and it attracts more customers. Same goes with the brands. The brands are willing to partner up with retailers and to implement hand-on hygiene across their portfolio of stores. Clearly, hand-on hygiene has driven sales before, and with the current situation, it makes sense. With the current agenda, it also makes sense, and it helps to have these campaigns drive a purpose-driven message where the brand is committing to support retail and protect shoppers, and retail are protect and attract new shoppers. So it's a benefit for all.
Yeah, okay. So it definitely is, right? Because it sounds like my question was, what is it other than just a thing that cleans your handle, the bar of the shopping cart? But really, it's got brand benefits, retail benefits, and the shopper benefits as well. So it's a very holistic idea. That's amazing. So what's next? Is there an evolution to the product, or have you got anything in the pipeline?
Yeah, we have, and I think building on from that last question, I think the other thing this has is purpose, right? So whilst it may seem like a very transactional solution, there's a real purpose behind it for brands to get behind the industry and support shoppers, and I think that's very rich. And so when we talk about what's next, I think that's what's next is the bigger subject around that. So, hand-on hygiene is one of these ideas that when it stops you when you see it and you go, oh, that's clever, and that's a sign of a good idea. But the truth is, we're not here just to sell a piece of plastic. We're here to have a much bigger conversation about purpose and about sustainability. So, we've got to define, I think, as part of our job to reimagine commerce, what the impact of hygiene is going to be. And that topic's not going to go away. It's going to lighten. And that's why we're talking about longer term sustainable solutions. So we've invested already, I think you've seen some of them, Darren, now as well. So we've invested in a suite of further solutions. So solutions around baskets, around door handles, around coolers in store. And we're continuing to evolve those. And they're not all, directly sanitizing units. Some of them are much more, again, about warning or about heightening and about just generally about looking after people. We're also excited about creating a new campaign around this, because the one thing it needs is it needs communications. And we're looking at things like creating a hygiene index so that consumers can understand what are the most hygienic stores in their area, because you're going to want to go to the stores that you're looked after rather than the ones you're not. So there's some really nice, interesting innovations around that. And then I think it's, as much as we're focused at the moment in the retail space, and retailers have been really, really interested in this and continue to be as they move away, as I say, from that reactive hygiene perimeter to what's next. We're talking to airports, we're talking to malls, theme parks, we've had inquiries from hospitals, transportation hubs. So, there's a much richer story in this than just selling a piece of plastic. And I think, we've seen it from our teams in geometry around the world, and Nisreen's been inundated and managing all of the requests, but the ones that are having more success with it are talking about bigger strategies. You know, how do I help you with your hygiene strategies, geometry? You know, how do we map out journeys for you? How do we come up with solutions? How do we provide a management service for this? And I think that's something we've got to remind ourselves sometimes. It's a much bigger discussion but it starts with a piece of plastic.
Yeah, you're right. It's almost, you can have a separate business unit just to talk on this subject alone, right? And with all of the different touch points that you just talked about there. Yes, that's great. So look, thank you, Nick and Nisreen. It's been great hearing about the journey of Handle of Hygiene and a little insight into the story and where the story is going to go. It sounds like it's going to be an amazing journey, and it sounds it already has been an amazing journey. And it's great to hear how we're connecting with human behaviours and innovation and all of the different subject matters around it. But before we go and say goodbye, we think we should just play out the case film as well, just so everyone knows exactly and gets a bit more in depth about what we've been talking about for the last 30 minutes. So thank you.
Good stuff. Thank you, Darren.
Thank you, Darren.
Thanks.